Let's talk about the second German-exclusive Indiana Jones novel written by Wolfgang Hohlbein, Indiana Jones und das Schiff der Götter, which would translate to Indiana Jones and the Ship of the Gods. The English translations, like fan-made on like the wiki pages, call it the Long Ship of the Gods, which is more specific, but yeah, whatever, it is the Ship of the Gods. Okay, I was really looking forward to this one. This is the first of the indie novels that takes place after the movie trilogy, because this book is set in 1939, shortly before the beginning of World War II. And I was also excited for this one because I have heard that it includes aliens, which is not true, but I think I know why I thought that was the case, from just based on stuff I've read and what I've heard that this book is about. But let's get right into it. The book, it's interesting because the first almost like 80 pages, Indiana Jones is not really in it. Well, he does show up, but he's not really the main character at first. In the first chapter, we follow a captain called Morton. He and his crew get like an SOS signal and they investigate in Antarctica. And they find a giant iceberg. They find one survivor, and inside of the iceberg, they find something that's not revealed at the beginning, and it's supposed to be a little twist, but I can say it because it's the title of the book. They find a Viking ship, which, is half buried inside the iceberg. That's the first chapter, and that's like 45 pages. And then the second chapter is Morton and some US government guy looking for Indiana Jones. They need his help figuring out what this thing is. They are basically assembling a team. Besides Indy, we also get like his Eskimo friend Quinn. We get a psychologist lady called Mabel Rosenfeld. We get two Danish people who join in, like experts on Viking stuff. We get two Germans who join because the US and Germany are not at war, so they made a deal with Hitler, so two of his guys gonna, tag along. And basically a large portion of the plot is set on board of a special US Zeppelin, which is kind of cool. And basically Indy is just trying to figure out what is really going on, because it's obvious that this isn't just like a scientific trip to investigate, this ancient ship. There's obviously something more sinister going on. And yep, that's the case. I'm not gonna spoil that element, but I have to talk about the ending, because the ending goes completely fucking insane, and I love it, and it's awesome, but it's also kind of really stupid. But if you don't want spoilers, here's the spoiler-free summary of what I think about this book. I think this book is solid. The beginning sets up an interesting mystery. It takes a while for Indy to show up, but when he does, he's pretty cool. His love interest, so to speak, not really Mabel Rosenfeld, she's okay, but she gets introduced as such a bitch and an annoyance. And at the end, she kind of becomes friends with Indy, but I didn't think her character was that well developed. I never got, over her introduction, where she was just like this angry bitch. Indy's friend Quinn is pretty fun, and I did like the mystery with what's going on. There's like a traitor among the people on board the Zeppelin, which is interesting. And we have constant action, basically. Similar to like the previous book, The Feathered Serpent. Wolfgang Hohlbein does nail the pacing, in my opinion, where we do go from scene to scene with a lot of action thrown in and mystery building up, and then the climax explodes in the supernatural elements. So in total, this is a really solid book. I definitely recommend it. Similar to the first one, you can easily find fan-made English translations floating around online. Or you just get the German original if you can speak and read that language. And now we have to talk about the ending itself, because holy fuck. So here's the spoiler, what the ship really is. And that's the reason I thought it was a UFO, based on what I've heard when people talked about this book. The ship is the ship of Odin, the god. And it's supposed to take the Vikings to Valhalla, but it got stuck in this iceberg for like eternity or whatever. and now it's slowly like getting out, and it changes people. When they get too close to it, they turn into angry berserkers. And basically this one Nazi guy, Klaus Erich, wants control over this power, the ship and the berserkers it can create, and he wants to like cause Ragnarök, the end of the world, beginning of a new world. So he takes control of the ship, frees it from the iceberg, which the iceberg splits in half, and the ship gets out in open water, essentially. And the Nazi guy, who was shot dead, but apparently was already fueled by the magical power of the ship, because he somehow survived. It's not really explained, that was confusing. But he's on the ship, he's controlling it, he's an invincible Nazi zombie now. And he also found Thor's hammer on board the ship, and he's using it to attack Indiana Jones with lightning bolts. And it's the most amazing thing ever. And then his love interest, Mabel Rosenfeld, sacrifices herself. She gets on the ship, she beats up the undead Nazi guy. Thor's hammer falls into the ocean and gets lost, which is fun. And then she's like, I know what this ship, what has to happen now. So the ship takes off into space, because it has to, continue its original function and take the last Vikings to Valhalla. So it just ascends into space, and Indy is just standing there watching it, and then the book is over. This happens on like the last page, and it's absolutely fucking insane and glorious. This was so unexpected and crazy, it almost rivaled the Interior World novel in terms of being the most insane supernatural indie stuff ever. And another funny thing, not supernatural but also funny, over the course of the novel, Indy kind of becomes allied with one of the Germans, who's also a Nazi but not really a bad guy. He still has a code of honor, and at the end he again teams up with Indy and actually saves the day, because Indy is escaping from this broken iceberg with a Nazi submarine, which is funny. Honestly, I really had a blast with this novel. Like, the last 100 pages are just fucking awesome. But the stuff before also isn't bad. This is a solid novel. I would highly recommend it. I think I may still prefer the first one, The Feathered Serpent, but holy shit, it's gonna take a while before I get over this ending. I just hope Hohlbein continues, writing this good, but we shall see with the next one. Indiana Jones und das Gold von El Dorado.